Time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, a show where we bring you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. Very pleased to say, joining us tonight, Riath Al-Samarrai, the chief sports feature writer at the Daily Mail, and Martin Hardy, the Northern sports correspondent for the Times. Very good evening to you both. Great to have you here. Let's quickly run through the back pages as they reach us after the late events at Wembley and Hampden. Sun's back page, pretty much unequivocal, is the first to reach us. England's defeat to Iceland reflected with plain awful as they prepare to head to Germany over the weekend. It looks like Bukayo Saka's throwing a paper plane. Doesn't think he actually did that. They're also saying Leicester are interested in making Ole Gunnar Solskjaer their new boss. The back page of the Telegraph, front page of the Sports Supplement also goes with the England defeat. They focus on a potential takeover at Everton as well. Some commentary from the Telegraph inside pages, different look on the Euros. Jens Lehmann saying that Germany are semi-finalists at best as far as he's concerned. Scotland's first opponents, of course. All that to come, but first let's hear from Gareth Southgate after England's 1-0 defeat to Iceland at Wembley.
These last games going into tournaments can be a little bit scrappy like that in terms of focus, because players are worried about picking up an injury. The most disappointing part tonight was out of possession. We didn't press well. We were too stretched, and we've actually in the last 2 or 3 games in particular been excellent at that. So that's the bit that we've really got to rectify. With the ball we could have been better, but we still created some very, very good chances. I think the players, or a lot of the players, needed the minutes. Players that have been coming back from injury, players that have played a lot but have had a week's break and are out of that rhythm. And of course, at the end, where you ideally want the experience on the pitch to keep the calm and work your way back into the game, we were needing to take those players off to look after them.
So that's Gareth Southgate's pretty candid assessment of it. Martin, let's come to you with the back page of The Sun. We can see there again the clever mock-up of Bukayo Saka looking like he's throwing a paper airplane. Plain awful, not exactly flying off in style as boos ring around Wembley. Tom Barclay, their reporter on the night. Any reason to be concerned, Martin? What was your assessment of England?
Probably Gareth Southgate is the perfect man to have at the helm at the minute, because he would be calm. He won't get carried away by anything. This is a friendly, as he said. Players are concerned about getting injured. I might not look it, but I'm old enough to remember 1986, where England played 2 group games in the World Cup and were awful. And then Peter Beardsley got put in, was brilliant. Gary Lineker was brilliant. And for the last 30 odd years, people have moaned only about Diego Maradona's handball and not how awful England started that tournament. So it turns very, very quickly, and this is a friendly, so therefore we have to put in perspective. However, there are concerns in that suddenly on the eve of a tournament, it's kind of revolution has become Gareth's kind of calling card rather than evolution. Trusted players like Marcus Rashford, Jack Grealish and James Maddison have gone. He's playing with a lot of very quick wingers. Anthony Gordon started the game very well and has had a brilliant season for Newcastle, and on the other side, Cole Palmer has had a brilliant season as well, and he started brightly. And if his delightful floated cross is flicked in by Harry Kane, we may be talking in a different terms here. If Anthony Gordon takes a chance in different terms as well, that's probably the plus points. The negative points from there are that this is actually a game where you miss Jack Grealish, and when you're playing Slovenia in the European Championships, you will have a lot of possession deep in there in the final third, and that is what he's used to doing at Manchester City, and that's what he's done and been trained to do by Pep Guardiola. Some of these players like Eze and Palmer and Gordon are used to breaking at speed, and that's not going to be the way England, I don't think, are going to play in the European Championship, certainly not in the group stage. So that's a concern, getting that to link. Kobe Mainoo was playing very high if he's kind of being pushed to be the defensive midfielder alongside Declan Rice. And then the real worry is the fact that you haven't really got a backup goalkeeper who has a great deal of confidence at the minute. And after Aaron Ramsdale had conceded the goal, you could see him kind of burying his face, thinking, this has just been an awful year for me. Is it going to continue? And on top of that, John Stones, who hasn't had enough game time, goes off injured. Mark Gay, who's not completed a Premier League game since January, gets one in the face. Kieran Trippier has not played a great deal for Newcastle in the last couple of months. He's not fully match fit. You've got Lewis Dunker's in the stands. You're looking at Harry Maguire hasn't gone. Luke Shaw's not fit. It looked fragile. It looked an area of concern if England have had their first choice defence. But as things are standing, that would be a real worry if I was the England manager going into a major tournament. An unsettled back four who haven't played many minutes, never mind many minutes together. Somehow he's got to make them gel basically in time for the tournament.
Indeed. You mentioned, Martin, the volley from Kane off the cross from Palmer, just flashing over the crossbar. Phil Foden going close as well. Riath pictured here in the Telegraph. Reality check is their lead headline. England booed as Iceland claims shock win at Wembley. Stones forced off with ankle injury in final Euros World game. Matt Law there for them. Reality check, is that right? How do we reflect on perhaps the last couple of days with England and Gareth Southgate? Will he think perhaps it was maybe overly chaotic, poorly planned?
Neither one of those games was terribly impressive, particularly this one. But I think you can also take the view that it wouldn't be England going into a major tournament if there wasn't some level of anxiety around it. So this is sort of half of that course. It's that little speed bump. Maybe that even works in their favour. Who knows? That could be scraping the barrel for a positive tone. That it somehow lowers this sort of talk of being favourites around the team. But certainly looking at them tonight, there are a lot of problems there, and obviously contextualise that you acknowledge this is a friendly. It's you could dismiss it as meaningless, but it's not. They needed to get minutes in the legs, sure, but particularly in the defence, they need to start establishing a partnership now, particularly with Harry Maguire gone. You want to see Gay and John Stones gel. That's not worked out tonight. We wait to see what happens with John Stones and that ankle injury, because that's a massive concern. And I think it has been throughout the entirety of this campaign. When you look at that defence, it's a very lopsided squad in terms of distribution of quality. They've got rainmakers all over the attack. They can, there are goals in that squad indisputably. And let's not forget as well, Jude Bellingham's is going to be coming back into the team, and that's not that's not a small consideration here. But for all of the flatness in the attack tonight, you know that's not really the concern. The concern is what they're going to do when they're playing against teams who are more on the front foot. And Iceland are able to create several chances there beyond the goal, and whatever we say about Ramsdale and Stones and their involvement in that goal. Iceland are able to create, I thought, the better chances than England, Harry Kane aside. Now, what happens when they do come up against one of the sort of serious opposition over in Germany? I think that's a real worry. And tonight was really a testing point to see Stones and Gay play together. Obviously, that's only lasted 45 minutes. But beyond that, there were so many disjointed was the word that Gareth Southgate used, and I thought it was spot on. There was no cohesion there. I wasn't convinced by Mainu and Rice in midfield together either. I don't know. I feel like I'm in a minority on this. I'd like to see Conor Gallagher get a game there. I think in terms of when Southgate's talking about pressing and intensity, I think that's something that Conor Gallagher brings, does extremely well. We've not seen him given a chance. But again, remember, it's a friendly. It's a brilliant squad. But if we're to look at the night on its merits, it was very poor.
Okay, very poor. Your take on it. The headline in the Mirror, Martin, Ice Scream. Will remember the Iceland, of course, at Euro 2016. Perhaps this isn't quite as traumatic for England fans, not being a competitive fixture, but Phil Foden again pictured with his head in the net. England booed off as Son melts. That's a Thornsteinson. That's a bit of a stretch, that. But melts Southgate's sloppy Lions, who suffered demoralising defeat in Euros send-off. We often oscillate between pessimism and wild optimism. Is there a case for realism that perhaps, particularly if John Stones injured, Martin, that England's defence is limited and perhaps we should, I guess, guard for expectations around that defence, really?
No, absolutely. And I would have said that even though he's been a really good servant for England, despite the criticism, even with a fully fit Harry Maguire, he probably would have said that the defence would have been your area for concern. That's just been made far greater by these injuries, the lack of cohesion, the lack of time the players have spent together, that chemistry, which I think Riath was kind of alluding to there. It's absent tonight. You hope it'll be okay on the night when the real business starts, but it is an area of concern. I think they will be better with Jordan Pickford in the team. I think that does make a difference. But you've got a right back, a left back. You've got centre halves who haven't played. You're trying to find the right system to bring the best out of two brilliant footballers in Phil Foden and Jude Bellingham just further forward. So going into the tournament, there was an awful lot of questions to be answered. And does Gareth know the answer to them yet? I'm not convinced. Certainly, when you've mentioned there the defence, that would be the area of concern. You think back to when Gareth Southgate teams have done well, they've been really, really rock solid at the back. This team doesn't look that. The goal was sloppy from about 3 or 4 different positions. You could see John Stones having a word with Ramsdale when the goal went in. These are players who haven't played together a great deal. So there's a lot for them to pick up in a very short space of time. And, you know, the tournament is here. And are England ready? They don't feel ready. But as I said before, it can turn very, very quickly.
Certainly can. The Mail says plain awful. Quite alarming headlines generally in the papers, Riath. We've got about 30 seconds before we take a commercial break. We'll just bring you comments from Harry Kane on social media. Not how he wanted to sign off for the Euros, but loads to learn from, and we'll get stronger, get behind the lads, and we'll see you in Germany. Is that a reasoned approach? Should we expect them, on a positive sense, to learn a lot from tonight as they head to Gelsenkirchen to face Serbia?
We've got plenty of scar tissue from Iceland across the past 8 years, but I think they've got enough to, and they've got 9 days to park this out of their system and move on. I don't think an excessive reaction is necessary. Southgate can keep his job for now.
Okay, good learning experience then, Riath and Martin. Thank you very much for now. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at more of the back pages with Riath and Martin, including this in the Telegraph, where Everton's future remains in question. We'll hear about who's looking at buying them and also reflect on a draw for Scotland. Welcome back. You are watching Back Pages tonight, and it's welcome back to Riath Al-Samarrai, the chief sports feature writer at the Daily Mail, and Martin Hardy, the Northern sports correspondent for the Times. Remember Scotland drawing in their final warm-up game. Suter and Gordon omitted from the squad, who will now fly to Germany to face the hosts in the Allianz Arena. That game will have finished this time next week, gentlemen. Let's get a German perspective then on their chances. Riath, Jens Lehmann, former Arsenal keeper, interviewed in the Telegraph, who predicts that Germany will not go farther than the semi-finals. Not impressed by Julian Nagelsmann's team, which of course featured Kai Havertz scoring in a friendly for them tonight. What do you make of that? Is it just trying to lull us into a false sense of security, or has he got a point?
It's Jens Lehmann, so you usually expect him to get it off his chest, whatever the talking point is. It's a fascinating interview. I mean, in terms of Germany not going further than the semi-finals, I think I wonder if they might even sign for that now on the back of the past couple of World Cups and the last Euros as well. But they've come into some form, so I think he might be a little bit harsh. As far as I can tell, I don't think they've lost this year. They've won 4 times. They beat France in March, so. With a home crowd behind them, that might be a little bit of a pessimistic take there from Jens Lehmann. But like I said a moment ago, this is a guy who he knows how to hold a grudge. He knows how to put his view out there. We remember that always from Arsenal, of course. So no, it's a fun read, that one.
It certainly is, Martin. He does make the point they've got talented players, but puts that down mainly to the fact they've got 80 million population. He explains about the expansion of West Germany in the population base. He said they haven't got any tactics, though. I think he's criticising Nagelsmann. But with players, we had obviously Pascal Gross of Brighton scored the winner against Greece tonight. But they've got Zane, they've got Musiala, they've got Kroos in his farewell, Gundogan, Muller. It's going to be a big challenge for Scotland and the rest, isn't it?
It is. One thing to mention in that piece, just how much he moans throughout it, is the fact that he's annoyed that because of, as a former goalkeeper, when people talk tactics, they go 4-3-3 or 4-4-2, and they never mention the fact that there's one at the start of that, which seems blaringly obvious that the fella in goal is going to be a single. So that should tell you the level of pessimism dripping through his take. He says the coaches are too young, the goalkeepers don't get enough credit, etc., etc. And that what it does lead. Sorry, is the fact that there was a lot of pressure on Germany in the opening game, and that could be to Scotland's advantage. And Steve Clarke has brought about this I wouldn't quite call it renaissance, but he's brought Scottish football back to life. He's got a bit of pride in the national team, and a lot will depend on players like the names we know: Andy Robertson, John McGinn, Scott McTominay. They're going to be absolutely crucial, Billy Gilmore players, to kind of push that team to make sure that it's more than the sum of its parts. But you're still looking at, no disrespect, players like perhaps Grant Hanley being at the heart of the defence. You know, this is a championship player who will, I'm sure, be honest as the day is long for his country. So you suspect Germany will have a bit too much in that first game. But at the same time, that is a perfect opportunity for Scotland to get inside the competition, to do well, to put the pressure on Germany right from the start. And it's the first game. Funny things can happen, and let's see what Scotland can do.
Indeed, you mentioned Andy Robertson's quality, instrumental in the 2 goals against Finland, creating those. Switzerland and Hungary to come after the Germany game. 3 teams to progress. Riath, surely this is Scotland's chance to get out of the group, isn't it, for the first time?
I haven't watched the game tonight, but 2-2 with Finland, 2-0 up. The squad feels thin. Look, it's a very good chance. I hope they do it, but I wouldn't. I think that looks like a tough group to me. I can't see where the easy points come from in that group. Obviously, a lot's been made of Scotland getting there. Steve Clarke's done a tremendous job. He's really managed to kind of lift the mood around the entire setup there. But that's a big step. Getting out in the group stage, they'll have done well.
OK, we wish Scotland the best. We'll, of course, build up on Sky Sports News to come over the next week ahead of that opener at the Allianz Arena. Let's talk transfers. Back page of the Mail again has a similar headline to what we've already seen. Plain awful, with Bukayo Saka pictured there with the paper airplane. But also below that, the transfer line, Martin. Palace ace Eza can leave for £60 million. Do you think that could rise over the summer if he gets a good run out at the Euros? What do you make of that, including Tottenham apparently interested in him?
I think he's a fabulous player. Was he 25? Scored double figures from that wide position in the Premier League for the last 2 seasons. So, his lot is already perhaps near its peak in terms of transfer value. 60 million still seems very high in a market where clubs are terrified of breaking PSR rules, and so little was spent in January. So we're going to have to see what sets the price and the market, and how things have calmed down this summer once clubs start to move at the end of June. Wonderfully gifted player. Football Tactical's evolution seems to have been that we've got rid of one striker and kind of in replacement, you have 2 wide forwards who have an awful lot of pressure on them, expect to score goals, create goals, have skills, go past people. And Eze can do a lot of that. Going back to Gareth Southgate's squad, which has Gordon and Palmer and Saka in it, all players that can do that from that wide area. I suppose you look at the fact that Man United have been prepared to pay 80 million for the likes of Anthony and Jadon Sancho the last few years. So perhaps that is a fair market price. Will he get many starting roles in the group stage? I don't think so. Will he have the chance to really shine late on in games? And I guess when you go in the group stage, he is, if you're looking at the bench in a tight game, he is a player that has the skills and the trickery and the speed to kind of open up and unlock defences and win games. So we will see. I really like him, but 60 million still feels like a heck of a lot.
Certainly does, but you wonder a penny for James Maddison's thoughts as well after Eze perhaps ousted him from the England squad and now heading to Tottenham maybe over the summer. We'll see how that develops. So let's talk Everton. Riath with the Telegraph Sports Supplement. Del Tycoon backs fresh takeover bid for Everton. Chris Bascom reporting here about the backing here of Andy Bell, George Downing have got it. Possible billionaire backing it as well. How do you see the situation, Michael Dell, that billionaire, in terms of at Everton? Does hope spring eternal for Everton fans as we head into the weekend?
I think there's certainly a little bit of optimism now. Obviously, they've seen the 777 move collapse and break down, which I think there's sort of a general feeling of relief about that. But of course, it does leave them in this purgatory of sort of what comes next after Mashiri. Now, Michael Dell, he's worth £84 billion. I learned reading that piece. We're probably largely familiar with his line of work, Dell Computers. So he's got serious financial clout. It's still very early days with this deal. I believe they're requesting a period of exclusivity with Mashiri so that they can talk through. They're not at a staged club of declaring who the preferred bidder is. So it's still very early. But I think for Everton, having been through this debacle around 777, it's encouraging that this is coming through. And of course, the bid is fronted by two lifelong fans as well. So that might also be taken as a positive thing.
Yeah, I'm sure that'd be well received as well to have some supporters on board. A quick thought, we've got about 40 seconds. Martin, back page of The Sun. Leicester have had a possession-based manager, Enzo Maresco, perhaps maybe a counter-attacking manager if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer goes there. Fox is in Ole hunt. What do you make of that potential? Do we reflect more positively on Ole's time at Manchester United now?
Well, I think we do. He finished second in the Premier League as against eighth and came within a whisker, a penalty of winning the Europa League. So perhaps he comes away with more credit historically than was perceived at the time. Kieran McKenna and Michael Carrick were the coaches beside him, and their lot really couldn't be much higher either. So perhaps it is time for him to come back, and it's a great club with a lot of potential at Leicester. Give
me 10 seconds, Riath. Good to see Ole back in the Premier League if he comes.
Absolutely. Whatever else happened at Man United, it's he's a good character. He's an iconic figure, and as Martin says, Man United have proven that that they've become an asterisk CV for quite a few people. So let's see him again.
Yep, Ole, great striker, teamed up with Jamie Vardy, who's still at Leicester as well. What a combination that could be. Martin and Riath, thank you very much for your company as well. Thank you very much for watching it at home. If you missed any of this show, another chance to see Back Pages tonight at 1:30. It's also available as a podcast. Download Back Pages wherever you get your podcasts.